Let's talk about the lie men have been sold once they cross 60. For decades, you've been conditioned to believe that your worth is tied to whether or not you have a woman by your side. Movies, advertisements, even the casual conversations around retirement, everything paints this picture that without a partner, without a relationship, you're somehow incomplete, broken, or destined for a lonely decline. But let me ask you something. Whose story is that? Is it yours? Or is it one you've been programmed to accept without ever questioning if it actually serves you? When you strip away the glossy illusions, what you often find is that men over 60 who rush into relationships out of fear of being alone, fear of being irrelevant, fear of being forgotten, end up sacrificing the very things they value most. Peace, autonomy, the freedom to live life on their own terms. You see, companionship can be beautiful, but when it's fueled by insecurity, it becomes a prison. Men give up control of their finances, their routines, even their identity because they've bought into the idea that any partner is better than no partner. That is the lie. And let's be brutally honest here. By 60, you have already lived through decades of experience. You've built a career, maybe raised a family, you've fought battles, and you've survived storms. You carry wisdom that younger men haven't earned yet. So why, at this stage, would you hand over the steering wheel of your life just because society whispers that being single makes you less of a man? That's not strength. That's submission to a false narrative designed to keep you chasing validation you no longer need. The truth is that what men actually need at this stage isn't another person to complete them. It's clarity. Clarity about what kind of life they want to live in the time they have left. Clarity about whether a partner adds value to their journey, or whether she's simply filling a void they're too afraid to face. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing a woman to prove your worth is the moment you finally become free to choose one out of genuine desire, not out of desperation. That shift changes everything. Think about it. Do you want to be the man who spends his 60s repeating the same patterns, chasing approval, bending himself into someone else's mold just to avoid being alone? Or do you want to be the man who redefines what fulfillment looks like, who decides that peace, purpose, and self-respect are non-negotiable? That choice is yours, and it begins with rejecting the lie that you are incomplete without someone else's presence. The harsh truth is this: you don't need a woman to validate your life at 60. What you need is the courage to live your life without apology, and the wisdom to only let people in who elevate it. So, here's the question you must wrestle with tonight. Are you chasing companionship, or are you chasing yourself? Because one will keep you trapped, and the other will finally set you free. Loneliness is a real force, and we need to stop pretending it isn't. When a man hits 60, silence can start to feel heavy. The phone doesn't ring as much, the kids are busy with their own lives, and the friends you used to lean on may no longer be around. That kind of emptiness eats away at the spirit. It can make you question your relevance, your purpose, even your place in the world. And because of that ache, men often convince themselves that the only antidote is to rush into a relationship. But here's the harsh truth. Loneliness may hurt, but dependency can destroy you. When you enter into a relationship just to escape the silence, you're not building a connection, you're constructing a cage. You start leaning on someone else for your sense of security, your happiness, your identity. And the moment you do that, you hand over the very power that makes you who you are. That's when resentment creeps in. That's when you find yourself drained, financially and emotionally, by someone who doesn't actually fill the void, they just mask it. The real challenge isn't choosing between being single or being partnered. The real challenge is deciding what kind of man you want to be in the face of loneliness. Do you use solitude as an opportunity to grow stronger, to build new routines, to reconnect with yourself? Or do you run from it, only to trade one form of pain for a deeper, more suffocating kind? Here's the paradox most men never consider. When you learn how to master loneliness, when you stop seeing it as a weakness and instead treat it as training for independence, you become far less vulnerable to the wrong kind of relationships. You're no longer the man who clings out of desperation. You're the man who chooses out of abundance. That's a completely different energy, and it changes how people treat you. So the question is not whether loneliness is dangerous. It is. The question is whether you're going to let it push you into dependency or whether you're going to use it as the fire that forges your strength. The price of loneliness is temporary discomfort. The price of dependency is permanent loss of freedom. Which one are you willing to pay? By the time you reach 60, the game of relationships shifts in ways most people don't want to admit. The truth is, men and women often enter this stage of life with completely different priorities. Many women, after years of raising families or working, want stability, security, and comfort. They're looking for someone who can provide emotional consistency, sometimes financial reassurance, and a safe place to land. There's nothing wrong with that, it's human nature. But men at this age, their desires tend to move in the opposite direction. They don't want chaos, they don't want to take on someone else's baggage, and they don't want to spend the last decades of their lives fighting for peace inside their own homes. What men crave above all else is quiet, loyalty, and respect. And here's where the conflict begins. If you're a man who's worked his whole life, who's already provided, already sacrificed, already built, then entering a relationship where you're once again expected to pour out your energy, time, and resources can feel like starting a second career you didn't sign up for. You're not looking for someone to manage. You're looking for someone who won't disturb the balance you've finally earned. But too often, that balance is exactly what gets disrupted. This mismatch is the silent reason so many older men walk away from relationships feeling disappointed or resentful. It's not that they're against companionship. It's that the cost doesn't match the return. Peace is priceless, and when a relationship threatens that peace, it doesn't matter how attractive or appealing it looks on the surface. Deep down, it feels like a step backward. The real wisdom at 60 is learning to recognize this before you get pulled in. To ask yourself honestly, does this person add calm or create chaos? Do they respect the life I've already built? Or do they demand that I restructure everything around them? Those are not small questions. They're the questions that determine whether the rest of your life feels like freedom or like a slow erosion of the very peace you worked decades to achieve. At this stage, companionship should never come at the expense of tranquility. Because once a man loses his peace, he loses everything. So here's the challenge I'll leave you with. Before you let anyone into your life, stop and measure the cost. Ask yourself, does this person give me more peace, or do they take it away? The answer to that one question will tell you if it's worth it. By the time you hit 60, you've already proven who you are. You've worked, you've provided, you've endured loss, and you've carried responsibilities most people will never understand. At this stage, the question isn't whether you need someone else to validate your worth. The real question is, what kind of life do you want to live with the years you have left? Too many men give away that power by believing they're incomplete without a partner. But the truth is, your strength now comes from something deeper: purpose, independence, and the legacy you choose to leave behind. When you stop chasing relationships out of fear, something incredible happens. You realize you don't need anyone to tell you you're valuable. You don't need someone to fill your days just so you don't feel lonely. You already have everything you need inside of you: discipline, experience, resilience. And when you live from that place of strength, companionship becomes a choice, not a crutch. You can welcome someone into your life, but you no longer collapse without them. That's real freedom. This is where a lot of men get it wrong. They think aging means shrinking, slowing down, or quietly fading into the background. But in reality, this is the perfect moment to expand. To try new things, to travel, to mentor, to write, to build, to create. Your legacy isn't defined by whether or not you have a partner. It's defined by what you continue to do with the life you've been given. And ironically, when you start living like that, when you radiate independence and purpose, the right kind of people are drawn to you naturally. So instead of asking, do I need a woman at this age? The better question is, who do I need to become at this age? Because once you answer that, the presence or absence of a partner stops defining you. You're already complete. And here's the truth you can't ignore. Peace, purpose, and freedom are the foundations of your final chapter. Guard them ruthlessly. Anyone who enters your life should amplify them, not take them away. So let me leave you with this. Your 60s aren't about proving you still need someone. They're about proving to yourself that you are enough. Build your life so strong that love becomes the bonus, not the requirement. That's where real power begins.